If you are visiting Tokyo for the first time, be sure to watch this video because in it, I'm gonna share everything you need to know to have the best trip ever in the world's largest metropolis. Now, in case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com. And this channel is all about practical travel advice from someone who's been there, done that. After visiting Tokyo for the first time last month as part of Airlo's first ever brand trip, I have so many tips to share, plus all sorts of things I really wish I knew before going. So I hope you find this helpful. Now, this video is going to focus specifically on Tokyo, but I did publish a general Japan travel tips video last week, so be sure to check that out for tips on things like etiquette, food, and other general things. Now, let's start with some general Tokyo travel planning tips. First, in terms of flying into the city, Tokyo actually has two international airports, Narita and Haneda, which is much closer to the city center. This is why Haneda is largely considered to be the better choice for most travelers. It also has some really cool amenities like a rooftop onsen that looks really cool. This would be my personal choice if all factors were equal, especially if you wanted to take one of Tokyo's notoriously expensive taxis because the distance is so much closer than Narita. That said, Narita is the bigger airport and does actually service more flights and airlines, so it is possible you might get a better deal flying in and out of there, so definitely compare the options. Another important tip is if you're doing a multi-city trip, do consider leaving Tokyo until the end, because if you plan to shop, hands down the most options you'll find are definitely in Tokyo. So if you have flexibility, it may work in your favor to save Tokyo until the end so that you're not hauling all your shopping around. Now, in terms of where to stay, Tokyo is massive, so even if you stay somewhere super central geographically, that still does mean you'll be doing a lot of travel on public transport to see different popular sites. This is why I think it's very important to pick an area that's close to public transport that suits your desired vibe, rather than trying to pick something that is just geographically very central. To help you get your bearings, do note that the greater metropolitan area of Tokyo is officially divided into 23 special wards, plus some more cities, towns, and villages. So in other words, it is absolutely massive. What can be confusing for first-timers though, is that these divisions in terms of governance and also what you see in addresses are actually different from the names of neighborhoods that you see in most travel guides. For instance, neighborhoods like Ueno and Asakusa are both actually part of the Taito City Special Ward. So just know that while Tokyo as a metropolis is divided up into special wards and other divisions officially, more often what we talk about are the distinctive neighborhoods known for the specific character instead. Often these districts don't have super official division lines, but more or less refer to the area around the train station of that name. Now, how can you decide which neighborhood makes the most sense for you? For the most part, people consider central Tokyo to be the part that's contained within the circular Yamanote line. Stay near one of these stations and you'll never be too far away from the sites. I personally think the main deciding factor should just be the vibe that you're going for. So if you want to be in the middle of the action, let's say close to the nightlife and all the entertainment, Shibuya and Shinjuku are definitely top picks. Though options here definitely tend to be pricier. We stayed at the gorgeous Hotel Indigo Shibuya for half of our trip, and the views were amazing. We were close to tons of iconic sites and shopping, but it was also very busy and congested with tourists especially. For the second half of our trip, we actually booked a hotel in a quieter part of Ueno, and it was perfect. Lots to see nearby, but still quiet and peaceful on our walk back to the hotel. Plus easy walkability to Asakusa and Akihabara, so I can definitely recommend staying in Ueno, plus their mascot is a panda. Now, other notable neighborhoods include Ginza or Marunouchi if you want upscale vibes with luxury shopping. But I'm gonna be so honest with you, Tokyo has so many great places to eat and shop that you could probably find amazing gems wherever you choose to stay. So keep that in mind, don't stress too much, and let the prices and hotel niceness guide you. That said, if you have a longer trip planned, I could definitely recommend splitting your stay into 2 or more accommodation areas so that you can more easily explore different parts of the city. Generally speaking though, do definitely beware that hotels in Tokyo can be smaller than what you're used to. Even nice and expensive ones can be lacking a bit in space, so that's just something to be aware of. If this is a deal breaker for you, do make sure you read the room specs really carefully, because honestly, photos, especially wide-angle lens photos, can be very deceiving. Now, in terms of what to prep beforehand, you should also set up an eSIM so you have data access right away as soon as you land in Tokyo. I personally needed data straight away because not only did I need to message our hotel reception to let them know that we arrived late, But I also needed it to fill out the digital customs form to save time, and I was only able to do this all from the plane because I had an eSIM installed already on my phone. So on that note, this week's video is brought to you by Airlo, my go-to eSIM provider that has options for over 200 countries and regions around the world, including Japan, where I recently joined them on their first ever brand trip. I've been using Airlo on every trip of mine for the past year and a half, and honestly, I can't believe it took me so long to convert to eSIMs over physical SIM cards. They truly are so much more convenient and much cheaper than roaming too. Now, for those who haven't used one, eSIM basically stands for embedded SIM, meaning it's pre-installed on your device and it connects you to local telecom networks 100% digitally, meaning you can set everything up from your phone without needing to switch physical SIM cards like you used to. Truly, I don't think I would have survived this trip without my eSIM. Not only are you using data in Tokyo constantly for directions and translations, you also need it to top up your transport card and do research on food spots and bars on the go. The best part about Airlo is it's very quick to set up. I was in panic pack mode before the trip, so I didn't download mine from the Airlo app until I was literally at the airport waiting to fly out, and using my app, my package was purchased and set up in minutes. All I had to do upon arrival was turn it on for mobile data. So if you want to try them out, Airlo is offering a very limited time deal until the end of July where you get 20% off your first eSIM purchase. So be sure to use the code HAPPY20 through this link here to secure this super generous offer. And even if you aren't traveling in the next few weeks, you can just buy your eSIM now and activate it when you do travel so that you don't miss out on this awesome deal. You can also check out my complete Airlo guide to see step-by-step how to set your eSIM up. So thanks again to Airlo for sponsoring this week's video. Now let's continue with Tokyo tips for transport and getting around. First, do make sure you get a Suica card or other IC card to make your life much easier on public transport. Back in the day, this had to be in the form of a physical card that you'd preload with money, then tap as you needed at fare gates or on buses. These days, luckily, many digital options exist. If you're an iPhone user, the easiest option by far is getting a Suica card downloaded onto your Apple Wallet. All you need to do is open your wallet and go to the plus sign, then do transit card. You can then select Suica card from this list, and that is usually the most popular option in Tokyo. But if for some reason that's not working, then Pasmo and Icoca should both work as well. From a tourist perspective, I've heard really the only difference is that they have different mascots, so don't stress too much about the decision. In any case, being able to top up on the go with Apple Wallet is such a game changer. As a bonus, you can also use these IC cards to pay for other things like vending machines and even claw machines. Next, I can definitely recommend using Google Maps for navigation because it's going to tell you not only which exit to take, but also which cars are better for transfers and lots of important info like that. I honestly don't know how I would have survived my trip without Google Maps. There are tons of great features on there that really were so helpful. For instance, you can turn on the wheelchair accessible filter to find transport with elevators so that you can easily transport your suitcases. They'll even give you detailed directions for exits to help you get where you need to go. So, when you're navigating with public transport, definitely keep an eye out for that key piece of information and follow signs that match the exit that they give you. In some larger stations like Shinjuku, where there's literally over 200 exits, there are even colored lines on the floor that you can follow, so clearly this is an issue that lots of people deal with. All that said, you will definitely be walking a lot in Tokyo, so be sure to wear comfy and breathable shoes. Ideally, tried and tested items and shoes that you've broken in because you will be walking so much. Because I visited in rainy season, I basically lived in my Vessies, which kept my feet completely dry, even through puddles, and they were still comfy to walk in for hours. So if you're looking for a good waterproof sneaker, can definitely recommend them. Now, when you're walking around Tokyo, do beware that businesses are quite often actually stacked on top of each other on multiple floors. And for first timers, this can be very disorienting because you are trying to find a place that Google Maps is taking you, but it is nowhere to be found. So when this happens, I guarantee it'll happen at least once. Always make sure you check the address and see if there's any number followed by the letter F. This is usually going to tell you which floor the business is on, so that at least helps you narrow down your search a little bit. In terms of taxis, do know that taxis in Tokyo can be very, very expensive. And expressways do actually cost extra, so keep that in mind. We took a taxi once when we switched hotels, and the journey cost about 7,500 yen, which was honestly really pricey, at least compared to all the public transport we'd been taking. Granted, it was worth it because we didn't have to lug our bags across the city, but I definitely wouldn't do it for every single journey. And as I said before, do note that all the expressways in Tokyo are actually toll roads, so they cost extra. This is why some taxi drivers will actually ask you if it's okay for them to take the expressway, because that's essentially them asking for permission to take the pricier route. And this fee will get added onto your final metered bill. Next, do know that there are lots of coin-operated lockers at train stations and sometimes even at attractions. This is handy to know if you need to drop your bags off before or after checking out of your accommodation, or if you just want to explore a place en route to your accommodation, maybe at a train station, kind of at a midway stop. And so if you want a way to do that without worrying about your bags, this is a great option. Now, another thing, if you're taking public transport in Tokyo, you should definitely aim to avoid rush hour on public transport. 7 to 9 a.m. and then 5 to 7 p.m. would definitely be key times that you'll see thicker crowds, but honestly, it really struck me that the stations were pretty much never empty, and even at 10 p.m. there would be pretty busy trains that were packed with people, which is not something that I've witnessed in other cities, so definitely prepare for that. And don't forget to brush up on your public transport etiquette to make sure that you're always being respectful to others. Trust me, there are many unspoken rules when it comes to the public transport in Tokyo. The biggest one is that you should line up to board. The single file lines I witnessed were incredible. I've never seen anything like it, so definitely never try to cut in line and just take your spot single file. Also, be sure to keep your volume down on public transport. It's not completely silent, but you should never listen to videos out loud, for instance, or have a very loud full volume conversation. People tend to be very respectful of each other on board, so you should definitely act accordingly. Now, next up, we have the incredibly important Tokyo food and drink tips. First off, definitely know which specific Tokyo specialties you should be trying when you're in town. Tokyo is of course full of great eats from all over the world, but I always like to try things that are specific to the city, so in addition to the usual Japanese must-tries, here are some Tokyo specialties to sample. Tsukemen, also known as dipping noodles, is usually where chilled noodles are served separate to the broth and dipped in before slurping them up. Soba noodles are also very popular. These noodles are made of buckwheat and are very satisfying to slurp. Monjayaki, also known as monja, is composed of a thin batter made out of flour and broth, then tossed with different fillings like cabbage and seafood and cooked on a griddle until it's slightly crispy on the bottom. Then you scoop it up straight from the griddle with a little metal spatula spoon, and it's really fun. You can kind of think of it as a thinner and gooier version of okonomiyaki, which is the Japanese omelet/pancake dish that is super beloved around the world. There's also fukagawa meshi, which is clam rice that's cooked with clams and broth. Now, apart from fun local specialties, do know that there are many fun-themed restaurants and cafes in Tokyo, but they do have their pros and cons. Whether you're a fan of Pokemon, Sanrio, or ninjas, there is a themed restaurant or cafe that will cater to you. But the downside is most of them aren't particularly well known for their actual food or drink. But yes, just keep that in mind and make sure to read reviews beforehand to get a realistic idea of what to expect. After lots of research, the cheesy themed experience I settled on was the Ninja restaurant, which based on reviews sounded like it actually had good food, and I was not disappointed. We also went to the Sanrio Characters Garden Cafe by Ueno Park, which was honestly kind of weird. Cute plushies, but the coffee was straight up from one of those serve-yourself machines. And other big ones include the Pokemon Cafe in Nihonbashi and Corn Barley, which serves Ghibli-themed food. But there's loads more, so make sure you look into it well in advance. On that note, you should also make sure you book in advance for popular restaurants and cafes. The Pokemon Cafe I just mentioned, for instance, is actually super hard to get tickets to. They release tickets 31 days in advance at 6 p.m. Tokyo time, and slots tend to go actually immediately. Don't worry though, I did find that last-minute bookings can and do pop up often, especially around 10 p.m. the day before, because this is the deadline for canceling bookings. So definitely keep an eye on their website and you might find some last-minute slots. I did notice as well that there was a special lineup in person at the cafe for walk-ins who are waiting for cancellations, so if you're really dedicated, you could also try that as well. But also, do take advantage of Tokyo's many super unique cafes or bars for a fun experience. You can honestly find lots of fun cafes near you just by typing in cafe onto Google Maps. Now, this is how I found Kojo, which is this little retro cafe that really felt like a step back in time, open smoking included, as well as our Yama Cafe in Harajuku, where a fluffy bear serves you your coffee through a hole in the wall. There are also some other places in Tokyo known for their crazy latte art, like Cafe Reissue, where they do 3D portraits of your pets or any photo that you show them. All to say, there are loads of great unique cafes in Tokyo, so definitely take advantage. The same advice can apply to bars. I literally just typed in bar one night on Google Maps and looked around, and that's how I found this amazing hidden gem model railway bar tucked away on the 3rd floor of a building where an entire model train track was set up with a mini Tokyo in the middle, which was so cool. That said, you should know that Tokyo has a lot of smaller bars and restaurants. If you're solo or in a pair, this means you'll have very little trouble slotting in somewhere because there are just so many options. But if you're traveling in a big group, finding a place that can spontaneously accommodate, let's say, 6 people might be challenging. So definitely consider booking ahead, especially if you want to go somewhere that's very popular. One very popular type of tiny establishment is a tachinomiya, or a standing bar, which is true to its name, a tiny pub where you literally drink and eat while standing. These can be very budget-friendly and quick as well, so definitely worth considering. Finally, speaking of tiny, definitely don't miss the Shinjuku Golden Gai for a unique, quintessentially Tokyo nightlife experience. This super small area is made up of about 6 narrow streets and is crammed with over 200 tiny bars, each with their own vibe and usually seats for no more than 10 people. I'll be real with you, this is definitely a magnet for tourists these days, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can definitely meet lots of fellow travelers while bar hopping here, and it's just a very unique place, so definitely worth checking out. Just beware that many places do charge a cover fee, and there's really huge variances in the number that this cover fee is, so definitely pay attention. Also be careful not to take too many photos with a big camera, because I've heard some really wild stories about people actually getting into trouble for this. Finally, I have to say, don't just limit yourself to Japanese food because Tokyo has lots of amazing international options. Let's be real, even locals aren't eating Japanese food every single day, so there really is no shame in taking advantage of Tokyo's vibrant international food scene. I have to admit, I didn't get tired of eating Japanese food at all during my time there, but I've anecdotally heard that Japan does actually super amazing French and Italian food, and just about every other major cuisine you can imagine, you can probably find somewhere in Tokyo, so don't be afraid to branch out a little. Now it's time to chat about Tokyo attraction tips. First, very important, I think you really have to be realistic about your itinerary and not try to cram in too many activities because Tokyo is so full of things to do. Honestly speaking, there is so much to do in this city that you probably couldn't even cover it all in a lifetime, but the good news is there really is something for everyone. So what I would recommend is maybe planning or booking one experience a day and then building your itinerary around that so that you can take your time to explore the neighborhood around the thing that you've booked. This way you're bound to find more hidden gems and unique activities rather than following the exact same itinerary as everyone else if you're just hopping from site to site. On that note, definitely make sure you're grouping sites that are close together and doing them at the same time to avoid any backtracking, just because Tokyo is massive, so at all costs you want to avoid going back to the same areas. So what I would recommend is saving all the spots that you're interested in on Google Maps and maybe marking it with a star or an emoji. And then that way, when you look at your map, you can actually see the different clusters of activities that you want to do and kind of plan your day around that. Seeing no more than 2 neighborhoods a day is probably your best bet in terms of keeping things manageable, but honestly, if you have time, 1 neighborhood a day would be ideal. That said, you should also seek to balance out your itinerary by breaking up the busy, high-energy stops with more green and relaxing ones. I usually hate this term, but Tokyo is truly a city of contrasts. So I would advise trying to balance out your itinerary as much as possible each day. If you're doing something intense like a walking tour, make sure you're also doing something chill later on, like a spa visit or something like that, or just chilling in a park, because otherwise you're gonna get burnt out really quickly. When you are planning though, do make sure you are double checking opening times and days for the different things that you're interested in, particularly your must-dos and non-negotiables, because actually many museums are closed on specific days, often Monday or Tuesday, and this is something that I personally learned the hard way, so definitely don't make the same mistake as me. Next, definitely pay attention to the ticket release dates for very popular attractions and make sure you are booking them ahead. Unfortunately, booking ahead is really essential if you want to see certain attractions. Generally, you should expect to start booking the ultra-hot attractions 1 or 2 months in advance. Here are some popular ones and when they tend to open up. Shibuya Sky opens up tickets 2 weeks in advance, but it's usually only the sunset slots that sell out. Though, as a tip, you can actually stay as long as you want once you're in there, so you can always book a time slot before sunset and hang out until the sunset comes. Imperial Palace tours open up at 5 a.m. on the first day of the month, preceding the tour date. Though they do leave a few hundred slots for walk-ins on the day of as well. And tickets for the Ghibli Museum become available for purchase at 10 a.m. JST on the 10th of each month for the subsequent month. The tuna auction at Toyosu Market is on a lottery system, and that opens up a month before. And some other ones like Team Lab's Borderless and Planets open up 2 months ahead. But generally speaking, you can buy these ones just a few days in advance, unless there's a big holiday or something, and there will still usually be some left. I know that's a long list, and to be honest, I would only pick 1 or 2 of these attractions to book ahead, because if your whole vacation is just scrambling from one booking to the next, you probably won't have any fun. Plus, some of these viewpoints, for instance, are weather dependent and might even be closed when the weather is bad, which is really impossible to plan for so far in advance. So I actually booked nothing in advance during my trip and just went with the flow and still had an amazing time. So really don't stress yourself out too much with all these dates. On that note, something I always say is definitely go see the touristy musts because they're famous for a reason, but try to explore beyond them as much as you're able to. Tokyo is such an amazing city with so much to offer beyond just the main guidebook or social media viral sites. The Shibuya Scramble, for instance, is cool, but it is, at the end of the day, just a huge crosswalk. So don't have these crazy built-up expectations in your head. For me personally, I would use these ultra famous spots as a starting point for sightseeing, but usually you can find lots of cool, more hidden spots super close to it that you've never heard of. Near Shibuya Scramble, for instance, there's a ton of cool shopping, including Parco, which is this amazing department store where you'll also find the Shibuya Pokemon Center, and there's also Miyashita Park, which is this really cool rooftop oasis in the middle of the city where there's green space and outdoor activities like beach volleyball, plus some cool pop-up bars. So definitely leave room in your itinerary to explore different neighborhoods as you go. Don't just stop at those famous sites. On a similar note, if you want to avoid crowds, do definitely consider visiting more popular spots at night for a more peaceful experience. I've heard Sensoji Temple, for instance, is gorgeous at night with its illuminations. So if that works with your schedule, definitely consider it. We went to Zojoji after sunset, and it was wonderful to experience it without crowds and with the Tokyo Tower lit up in the distance, which was really, really cool. Also, just note that there are tons of amazing alternative views in the city beyond just the top ones that you have to pay a lot of money for. Listen, I love a good viewpoint, but in a metropolis like Tokyo, there are so many that you don't necessarily need to spend lots of time, money, and prep in order to secure a good view. Don't get me wrong, viewing platforms like Shibuya Sky, Mori Tower, and Tokyo Skytree, which is actually the highest one in all of Japan, they all look really cool and have things that they offer, but I do think the magic of a good viewpoint can be somewhat diminished when you can't properly enjoy it due to crowds or long lineups. So just know that there are many alternatives. I personally always like when the view is bundled with an experience of some kind, so rooftop bars are definitely a fun one, and there are loads in Tokyo. I really loved the one at our hotel, which was the Hotel Indigo Shibuya, and also the tiny Asahi Sky Room was also really cool since it's in the Asahi headquarters, but it might be a battle to get a window seat because this space is actually super, super small. In any case, a quick search will show you way more rooftop bars, so definitely broaden your horizons. There are also some free options like the one at the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building, or on a smaller scale, the Asakusa Culture Tourist Information Center also has a pretty cool rooftop. Again, remember, in a place with as many tall buildings as Tokyo, there are really great views everywhere, so you don't necessarily need to stress about seeing the exact one that everyone else is seeing. I also think when in Tokyo, you should make sure you're enjoying a classic Japanese arcade and also taking advantage of all the fun gacha machines. Seriously, I consider this a cultural experience that everyone needs to have at least once during their Japan trip. And it of course helps that they're everywhere. We went to a multi-story arcade in Akihabara and loved it. Honestly, it's super fun to see locals being so into their different games. Plus, these gachapon capsule toy machines are everywhere as well and really fun, so be sure to grab some silly souvenirs from them. The things that they have are honestly so silly sometimes, but they can be really addictive. Pro tip though, if you see one you really like, definitely get it there. There's no guarantee that you'll actually be able to find it again. Though FYI, Tokyo is actually home to the largest gachapon store in the world with over 3,000 machines, so definitely worth checking out if you're into it. Finally, definitely consider adding a few non-touristy activities to your itinerary to mix things up. Something I'm really sad we didn't have time for is a baseball game, for instance, and apparently that's a super fun time that locals really love getting involved in. During some of his free time one day, Sean also went to some batting cages and chummed it up with some locals, and he loved that. So do kind of think outside the box. Yes, obviously you're a tourist in Tokyo. There are many touristy things to do, but there's also loads of fun things that locals do in Tokyo too, so don't be afraid to try something that isn't conventionally touristy, so long as it aligns well with your interests. Now, finally, here are some Tokyo tips for once you arrive. First, I do mention this in my general Japan tips video, but do make sure you bring cash as some smaller places in Tokyo don't actually accept card payments. I would say having about 10,000 yen as a base will be more than good to cover you in case you need cash. Most places in Tokyo are quite card friendly though, especially if you have an IC card like a Suica. I would also pack your day bag assuming that there's going to be changes in weather and temperature. Because honestly, you're going to be out sightseeing, so the likelihood of you being able to go back to the hotel on a whim to grab something is honestly not super high. So I would pack your day bag with some emergency options like a warmer layer, maybe a rain jacket or fold-out umbrella depending on the season, maybe a fan in the summertime, etc. I wouldn't worry too much though. Tokyo is definitely a city of convenience, so if it does suddenly rain like crazy, you can usually grab a cheap umbrella from a convenience store for like 500 yen, or just make use of an umbrella rental program, which I actually spotted at a few different train stations. Now, other things to bring in your day bag include a bag for trash and some hand sanitizer as well, just in case you run into one of those notorious public bathrooms that don't have soap, which unfortunately does happen, but luckily isn't too common. I'd also strongly recommend for you to bring a portable charger. This way you have a way of keeping your phone charged, and as we've already covered, you're going to be using your phone an insane amount. Next, in terms of shopping, do know that Don Quijote is great for variety, but you can usually find better prices at other shops and at pharmacies. This massive Japanese chain is everywhere and tourists love going because it's just this crazy, overstimulating wonderland of stuff you didn't realize you needed. But honestly, a lot of people think it's like the cheapest place to shop. It really isn't. The main perk of Don Quijote is that everything is in one place, but in Tokyo, there's honestly so many great places to shop that you have way more options, and usually you'll be able to find better deals elsewhere. Kitchenware stuff, for instance, can be much more affordable if you go to the Kappabashi Kitchen Street. Snack items tend to be cheaper from supermarkets. And I've heard that Ginza Karen is much more affordable for luggage. For a similar mega shop kind of experience though, both Yobadashi Camera and Big Camera can also be really fun, as well as different 100 yen shops like Daiso. Now, in terms of safety, I will say Tokyo is generally very safe, but do look out for touts in popular nightlife areas. Now, the only place I saw them was in Shinjuku and Harajuku, but I've heard some crazy stories about how these touts can actually lure you into bars that charge you really scammy prices on the pretense that you're gonna get a good deal, so definitely be careful. Finally, this is so important to me, don't miss the special eki stamps that you can get for free at many places. Again, I mentioned this in my general Japan tips video, but Japan has tons of places that offer a free stamp for you to collect. So definitely in advance of your trip or during your trip, get a notebook or a stamp book to collect them as you go. Tokyo has tons of them in pretty much every train station, every tourist information center, so it really doesn't hurt to ask. Just a hot tip, the Ueno Tourist Center in particular has tons of stamps featuring pandas, so now you know. Alright, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more travel videos just like this one, and let me know in the comments if you have any more Tokyo tips to add. I'll see you next time. Bye!